sure Brian Kibler wants the answer to be 8 or 9 people.
How many people does Brian Selden want?
I've got Selden 8 and Kibler 9 in that class right now in my head.
All right, so we're underway
Maybe
here.
it's the other way around.
We're underway with a little sleight of hand from Akira Asahara. Signet. Did you guys know Signets were going to be such a popular constructed card?
We expected them to be relevant. I guess people are running more of those than the the lands we call the Karus. I think we had the Karus better than the Signets, but they're both. We expected them both to show up in standard constructed, absolutely.
I think you're going to see after this Pro Tour, people looking a little differently at the Karus. I mean, they're clearly, they're 4 of in 2 decks now. I mean, there's a lot. They're pretty standard in the Jushi control decks, the blue-black one, and now the green-white one. So, people are going to start looking at them in decks where you want to play with a little tighter mana. You don't really want to draw a ton of lands, but you want more access to mana. So you can draw 2 lands and have 3 mana on turn 3 still. They seem really good.
Oh, there's Ivory Mask again.
Ivory Mask.
That shuts down Gifts Ungiven. And Frank just drew Gifts Ungiven. He actually had 4 mana last turn. If it was in his hand, he could have responded with it, but it wasn't. And so Gifts is shut off. Wow. Now, the forums, they were saying that Kakusho is not shut off by Ivory Mask. Am I confused about the wording of that? I thought target player lost 4 life, but is it all opponents or something?
I'll look it up.
Clearly shuts off Gifts, which we eventually puzzled out. Clearly shuts off Yosei, which is a big deal.
No, it says each opponent.
Oh, each opponent. So Kakusho still works, but Yosei targets an opponent.
Must be a heck of a
card in a
multiplayer game.
Uh-oh. There's Enduring Ideal.
And
Karsten can't stop it. That's game, right?
Well, unless he has an enchantment removal on his hand.
Zer's Weirding comes down.
Are we going to game 5?
We might be. Karsten breathing deeply.
Putrefy is only artifacts, correct?
Correct. His hand is Death Denied. I think that's Death Denied, right?
That is Death Denied, Putrefy, and Gifts Ungiven.
So he can never play Gifts. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Game.
Going again.
Akira Asahara, ladies and gentlemen. 2 apiece. Wow.
He's got a little John Finkel on his shoulder today.
Ha ha. He's got John looming from the Hall of Fame stage. He's still over there. He's hanging out. It's funny. I mean, the way the site is set up, the stage for the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies has these gigantic towers with pictures of the inductees just looking down, and they're looking down on the crowd that's watching this match.
That was really great during the ceremony. As the players walked out from behind those pillars, they spun around to reveal the giant image and the plaque and the player's name. It was really was pulled together really nicely. Big kudos to Renee and Whitney for pulling that together here. I was a little skeptical during the rehearsal.
Yeah, it definitely came off well. Well, John Finkel himself has already flown home, but his spirit is strong.
Do you think he's going to show up in Prague?
I think it's a good bet.
I mean, he loves drafting.
Yeah.
I've been drafting with John quite a bit back in New York, and he gets really mad at me. I'm now the draft ruiner.
Really?
And yeah, because we had about a 2-week period, maybe a 3-week period leading up to my trip to Japan. Where, I mean, really, all the Hall of Fame stuff was really coming to a head, and there was a lot of video that needed to be called, and a lot of stuff was as part of my job as a historian that needed to get taken care of, and I was really pressed for time between that and the Thanksgiving holiday. So there were a couple times where he's like, "All right, we got everyone ready to draft." I haven't turned down a draft in 10 years. They're like, okay, we got 5 people. We assume you can be there in a half hour, right? And I'm like, sorry, I can't do it. And I made about 2 or 3 drafts fall apart. So John has sent out some angry emails and has wished me to get bird flu on this trip at one point. for ruining drafts. So he really enjoys it. He's come a long way since he passed the Loxodon Hierarch in our first draft. In fact, he's it's amazing to watch him play. He's such a great player.
Yeah, I mean, if John Finkel shows up in Prague, he's probably got a great shot at making the top 8, right?
I mean, yeah, you certainly would be shocked if he finished outside of the top 64.
Yeah. No, he doesn't have. He's gone on. He's got a job. He's got a life. He doesn't have the time to prepare for Constructed like he used to. But Limited is much more about intuition for the game and much more about being able to improvise and think on your feet and take advantage of what you know about the game.
And he's got a good group of people to prepare with. Chris Bakula and Igor Fryman and Eric Kesselman and Tony Sign, a bunch of really great players who don't play on the professional level anymore, but still keep up on the game, play Moto quite a bit. So he's got a good group of people to test with for the limited events.
It's kind of funny how Chris Bakula, John Finkel, these guys are still sort of blazing the way for Magic, as they're sort of showing the world how to be an adult and still a Pro Tour player.
Absolutely, that's a really interesting idea. It's so funny. I mean,
they showed the world how to be a Pro Tour player first,
right? And how to be a retired Pro Tour player,
right?
I think there's really a lot of reaction in the forums. People who might not have known John as long as you or I have known him seemed shocked by the idea that John was, fat. They were like, oh my God, is that actually John? That can't be. Who is that fat kid with the blonde hair?
And the glasses and the red hair and the yellow hair.
His transformation is just remarkable.
No, I mean, I think one of the things that makes Magic so tremendous is that it's a place where smart kids come and sort of find their element and evolve into men. I mean, you really get to watch the transformation over the years as, the sort of awkward 16-year-olds show up on tour and start developing a social network and gaining confidence in themselves and turning themselves into, well-rounded men, going off to face the world. It's pretty remarkable when you look at the path of a lot of the players who've gone through the Pro Tour.
And just like he was one of the most successful players. I mean, John really, his transformation's also the most remarkable.
Definitely. By the way, you guys can read this story if you're tired of hearing me and BDM talk about it. There's actually a book that came out a couple months ago, Johnny Magic and the Card Shark Kids.
It's written by David Kushner.
Dave Kushner, who wrote Masters of Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not kidding. There's a book. It's the John Finkel biography, and it's a really good read. I very much enjoyed the book.
Yep. I'm actually working with John on he and Mike Flores are going to be writing a book together.
Really?
For us, we're going to be publishing it later this year about how to play Magic. John Finkel's approach to Magic. It's going to sort of go following through his career, talk about the key moments at each event, and really try to get inside John's head and just dissect how he makes his plays. But let's dissect how Akira's playing here. He mulliganed.
Yes, trying to channel the spirit of John Finkel.
Yeah, he mulliganed.
Akira has been forced to mulligan.
He's
that draw looks reasonable. It's got a couple land and a Felwar Stone.
It's got a sleight of hand.
Sure. Uses up the counter on the Ice Bridge. 2 games apiece. So this game will determine who faces Katsuhiro Mori in the World Championship Finals. Slice a land to the bottom. Karsten starts digging on his top. Looks like a Gifts and a Greater Good. Draws land. Sahara plays a Plains.
And a Felwar Stone.
Presumably. Might play an Ice Bridge. Yeah, there's the Felwar Stone. Wow, I think Frank has the advantage in this matchup, but it feels pretty close. I mean, if he is advantaged, I don't think he's advantaged by an awful lot.
Not as much as he thought initially?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, those last 2 games, he seemed completely helpless.
One of them have been very kind to Asahara this tournament so far. 1 Ivory Mask, one Beseiju.
It's true. It's a good point. Does not have the Ivory Mask this game, so maybe Frank can get things going.
Going to start digging through his deck with the telling times in his hand. The Felwar Stone now produces blue. He's got a faith that he has the Enduring Ideal in hand.
Wow. 7 mana, right?
Yep.
And he's got 4
He's got 4. I think he's holding 1 more. He's got 5, and he's got 2 telling times. And he's going to have the Enduring Ideal online in 3 turns. Maybe sooner if we find another Fellwar Stone.
It should be telling time, and it is. What do you think of telling time? Constructed. No, that's not great. Land, Mana Leak, and a backup Enduring Ideal. It does the Mana Leak is pretty relevant. He gets Mana Leak into his hand.
It seems great in the combo deck. It's perfectly, it's really good in the Eye of the Storm combo decks and different Heartbeat combos. It seems great in this. You just really need to find your mana accelerants in your pieces. You want to get 7 mana in Enduring Ideal or 7 mana in Form of the Dragon. It seems fantastic.
Asahar draws that land off the top. He's up to 5.
Tick-tock.
Yeah, Carson's got a couple Elders. He can reshuffle off the top. What does Carson need to get? I guess Carson needs to get enough threats into his hand that he can afford to have Zerzwerding hit the table.
But I think Frank's holding Yosei Greater Good.
Is that enough?
Keeps Asahara tapped down if he can get it out ahead of the...
Yeah, sure. But long enough. Oh, there's Fellwar Stone. That seems good.
So Enduring Ideal happens next turn, provided he can find 1 more land. Which I guess he won't find, because... he knows what his
There's a
next
land in
will
his
be.
hand.
Oh, there's there a land in his hand?
Yes. What phase are we in? Is this his main phase?
We have to check with Brendan, I'm not sure.
Secura's main phase, Brendan?
I think he takes Fellwar Stone here. I don't know what he's really thinking about. He'll have 7 mana and he'll be able to cast Enduring Ideal next turn. I mean, I guess he's playing around Mana Leak.
Yeah, Fellwar Stone even leaves he gets to leave up Mana Leak mana.
Any cards on hand? Cool.
Does Carson have Mana Leaks? Does Carson have any permission at all? When he's got blue mana, he's got gifts.
No.
Carson has no permission at all.
Right.
His plan is just to react, but you can't react to Enduring Ideal. That resolves once, it's going off. And Carson, he can't win the game before Enduring Ideal comes online. I mean, he knows it's next turn with a land. So he's got to I think he's got a piece of hand together that can survive Zer's Weirding. And with that top, he might be able to. Goryo's Vengeance, Yosei, and Gifts.
He's floating a Greater Good, or does he have the Greater Good in his hand?
I think it's in his hand. He shuffles all that away. Rending Vines is what he really needs to come up with. Just the one, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think he could gift for a Rending Vines, Hanakami, Soulless Revival package, but I don't know that he has time. I guess, does that gift still work after Zer's Weirding hits the table? I guess it would.
Yeah, Gifts is not a draw. It's put.
So Frank has Gifts and Yosei and Goryo's Vengeance in his hand. I think that Gifts allows him to get access to Rending Vines even after an Enduring Ideal resolves. Although I don't know if he can keep up with it, and then there's these confiscates that come into play. It's not going to be like last game where...
There's the Hanakami, so...
Interesting. It does not look like it's going to be like last game where Zer's Weirding hit the table and Carson was forced to immediately scoop. Right? Zer's Weirding caused those scoops because Carson had nothing relevant to the game in his hand and knew that Asahara could just deny him any relevant draws that he might have.
Asahara could also just play, Fellwar Stone to the wall and get a Form of the Dragon right away and just say, you have 4 turns to kill me.
But he's going to see Dragon. I mean, the Dragon's big enough to attack and kill you if you get Form of the Dragon in play. Yosei, Goryo's Vengeance, and Gifts Ungiven. That is Frank Karsten's hand. He's going to dig with the top. He can count. He knows Asahara's got 6 mana and the potential to cast Enduring Ideal next turn. We know he does indeed have the 7th land
And
and
the
the Enduring Ideal. But I don't know that it's ball game this time. I think Karsten still gets to play and try to slog through that. I'd be surprised if Karsten can pull it off, but you know what? If anybody can, it's Frank Karsten. There it is. Oh, because Asahara had double Felwar Stone last time. That telling time revealed 2 of them. That's why he was taking so long. He had to decide whether he wanted a 3rd Felwar Stone or a 2nd Enduring Ideal.
Well, once you cast the first one, the second one's not that good.
Right. I mean, I guess he was like, is Karsten gonna? I mean, he can't counter it. I guess Extraction, it wouldn't matter. So he eventually figured out there's no scenario where he needs a 2nd Ideal. So what do you get? It's gonna resolve. We know, and he knows, there's nothing Frank Karsten can do to prevent that spell from resolving. But what does he go get? Is it Zer's Weirding? Does he just go straight for Form of the Dragon?
He can't go for Form of the Dragon.
I agree. I don't think Form of the Dragon's right. So is it Zer's Weirding? Is it Confiscate? Fetters doesn't seem relevant. Genju? I think it's Weirding.
Is there any relevant mana he can confiscate there? I mean, he might be able to use Confiscate for a turn or 2 to keep Frank off of the necessary mana to
Yeah, it's hard to tell what
be
Frank's
able
lands are.
to do stuff, yeah.
What exactly are Frank's lands? It's clearly Forest Island. I see a swamp.
Although Frank does have a Tri-Builder to sack and
Get whatever he needs.
another land, yeah.
That's true. Although if he lets the Ideal resolve, he can confiscate the Elder.
So I guess Asahara's trying to decide here whether or not he wants to just sit back on that mana leak or whether he wants to just go all
Huh.
go in on the
There he goes. Enduring Ideal. 7 mana. Epic spell.
Frank's going to respond by casting Gifts Ungiven because he doesn't want Ivory Mask to hit play. He can't let it resolve before the Gifts Ungiven.
You are absolutely right. That's an excellent point. And then that means Asahara's going to know a lot of Karsten's hand when he decides whether to get Zer's Weirding or not. Yeah, Karsten must respond with gifts here, or he's totally screwed.
And I think that's what Asahara was trying to figure out is could he wait a turn, play it, play the Felwar Stone, draw another land.
Yeah, he'd have to count on drawing a land, though.
He'd have to count on drawing a land, and he'd have to count on Karsten not having 3 mana available on top of his.
Right. I mean, Karsten's at the
mana.
point where he could play gifts and pay for mana leak next turn. I think Asahara's playing is right. I think he just run out Enduring Ideal.
Sure.
Hope Karsten's hand isn't good enough. He's got to be disappointed that Gifts is going to resolve now.
It's so scary though, because now it's just, do I win or no?
Well, obviously it's scary,
He
but that's
has
the deck that he's playing,
Yep.
right? I mean, he knew what weapon he took into battle.
There's a new little addition to the gifts package, Recollect.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I have Gifted in Type 1, and Regrowth is amazing in those splits.
This is just 1 G.